Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are go. We are go.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. Valentine's Day weekend. The time for love, romance, and sweet sentimental gifts. Yeah, whatever. We're serving you a heavy metal massacre with a guest that's loud, heavy, and ready to melt your face off. We got Johnny Gallagher of Raven. He's back to talk about the brand new Raven EP, Can't Take the Fire Away, that drops Friday, Valentine's Day, and they're proving that after 50 years, they're heavier than ever. Johnny gives us the lowdown on the making of the new EP, why they rushed to record it, and what it means for their next full-length album. He talks about the brutal reality of touring. 43 U.S. shows in 46 days last year, barely any sleep, and why they still keep going back to the road. And then we also address the elephant in the room, why legendary bands like Metallica and Megadeth don't bring these classic bands out on the road with them. Why can't they throw these bands a bone? Well, John tells us the real reason why. But the real question here is Raven on the verge of releasing their heaviest music yet? Stick around because John hints at what's coming up next and why this might be their most intense record ever. Just want to remind you, head over to metalmayhemroc.com, sign up for our newsletter, stay in the loop on new episodes, exclusive interviews, and live radio show reminders. Check out our winter merch collection, hoodies, hats, shirts, posters. And listen, if you love what we're doing here, subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or wherever you listen to the show. Now let's get into it. John Gallagher of Raven joins us as we talk Can't Take the Fire Away, the madness of metal touring, and what's next for the band. I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC. Well, it's Valentine's Day 2025, and this band's been at it for 51 years now. 1974 up until, like I said, 2025. John, right off the bat, how exhausting is it to be touring? You know, you guys are all over the place.
We had some pretty hairy stretches last year for sure. 43 US dates in about like 46 days. We had like 3 days off, which were driving days. I think the South American one was pretty hardcore. You'd get up about 6, van to the airport, fly, 4 or 5 hours, get there, sound check, maybe grab an hour or 2 of sleep, do the gig, go to bed, wake up 3-4 hours later, go to the airport, do it again, do it again, do it again.
How many concerts has the band done in their career?
Oh, I don't know. I believe it's like 3,000 plus.
Any countries that you haven't played that you want to play?
Oh, yeah. Never played New Zealand, never played Romania, never played Bulgaria, never played Russia, Ukraine, out of Mongolia, the Aleutian Islands, and,
And why haven't you played those places?
I've been chasing these guys with weapons for years and they don't answer my phone calls. Just opportunity, really. Supposedly we were going to do New Zealand on that last run. It never really came together. But there are lots of other places. I mean, we did Singapore for the first time last year. We did Peru for the first time. We did Paraguay for the first time. So there's always these, firsts that we're always looking to do because it's cool. It's always great going to a new place, new adventure.
John, how has the touring landscape changed from 40 years ago? Like, what's working now that possibly in the past you didn't have, and vice versa?
Well, generally in most of the other countries, they've kind of tried to catch up because the US was always the gold standard for touring. Back in the bad old days in the 80s, like when we toured with Girls' School in 82, it was, virtually impossible to get a meal after the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pubs and what have you always closed at like 10:30 and everything. If you were very lucky, you'd get a toasted sandwich at the hotel. If you were very lucky. Those things kind of changed. Things are a lot more open. I mean, famously, we're on tour in Germany, and I believe it's a part of April where there's like 1 or 2 days off every week in the month. There's some religious holiday because they've got the hardcore Catholic holidays. It's like, oh, it's, Saint whoever's day. So, all the shops close at 12 noon. And it was like, again, we have a day off. And every time we had a day off, it was one of these holidays and there was nothing to do. You couldn't go anywhere. Nothing was open whatsoever.
So Valentine's Day, the new one, a Valentine's Day massacre that they're calling it. It's a 8-song EP, 5 new originals, 3 classic live cuts. Tell us about it, John. Why the title? What's the meaning behind it?
Well, can't take away the fire is definitely 50 years in the business related for sure. You can't. The fire is there and it's burning brighter than ever. So a couple of things for the EP. One was a logistic thing because Mike moved and, we're writing and planning to do a new album. And we knew he wouldn't have it ready. And it was going to create a delay. So we figured we'd get in before he tore it all down and get something recorded so we could fill that little gap and keep the ball rolling while we're putting that together. So there was that, and of course the 50th anniversary. I mean, technically this should have come out in December, but things, as they do, dragged out a little. So we thought it would be fun just to put a couple of legacy tracks on, just to show, over 40 years that were just as mental, if not more, than we were back then. So you've got a track from 84, you've got a track from 91, and you've got a track from 22.
Do I dare say this new Heller chapter for the last, since he's been in 17, is it the best Raven's been?
We're incredibly happy with how it's worked out. Mike's been such a catalyst and brought an awful lot of energy into the game, and we're just going from strength to strength. The last tour, we're playing phenomenally, having such a good time. And, these songs really point to where we're going. We raised the bar again. The first song that's on the CP is a track called Black and Blue, and it will leave you black and blue. It's the most intense thing I think we've ever done. It's absolutely nuts.
Why is it the heaviest thing you've ever done?
It's very fast, very intense, and just out there.
Now, I was going to ask, what pleasant surprise have you noticed after all these years that you're like, you know what? This is like a bonus from having Mike in the band.
It's nice to be able to pick up any song from any previous, version of the band, as it were, and go, oh, this is a cool song, let's do this. Where maybe before it might have been a bit of an issue. It's a strange setup in a sense at the moment because we've never rehearsed with Mike once.
What do you mean you've never rehearsed?
We've never rehearsed. I mean, individually, we'll kind of, just brush up on parts and stuff. But as far as like, okay, we're going to have the 3-week rehearsals before we go on tour. No. We did the Wiped Out album and the All for One album shows. Okay, learn the songs. Right, go. Maybe the first sound check. You sure about this one? Let's play it through.
Yeah.
And then just drop all three of us in at the deep end and see if we can swim our way out at the end. And it's worked. So what can I tell you?
Let me ask you, John, what are some underrated Raven songs? Some of your favorites?
There's many. There's many that we haven't even got to play. I mean, 50th anniversary tour last year, we decided, well, let's play something we've never played in forever, which was Inquisitor, which is one of the first songs we ever wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed logical to play it on this anniversary tour. And that was great. And we put a couple of little surprises in it, changed the arrangement very slightly, and it was awesome. But as far as other ones, I mean, when Mark's checking his guitar, he nearly always plays the riff from Get Your Motor Running off the Everything Louder album.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fun song to do, for sure. I don't know. There are so many.
So
That
many.
album in particular has some great songs. Blind Eye is a good one. Another one gets thrown around is Into the Jaws of Death from, Nothing Exceeds Like My Breasts, as it were.
Tell us about the new songs. Are they leftovers from Metal City or All Hell's Breaking Loose?
No, like one and a half of them were stuff that we were looking at for All Hell's Breaking Loose, and they weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones were written specifically for this. So that's good. You know, there's always stuff floating around. I mean,
Sure.
we probably could have done another 5 or 6 EPs from the songs floating around from All Hell's Breaking Loose if we'd wanted to. But, some of them were just, we'll look at it at another time, you know. I'll be going through some of that stuff because, we had 30 odd songs and maybe half of them were in a position where we could say, okay, these are pretty much together. And from that, we said, okay, what would be a great start song? What would be a great ending? How would we pre-sequence this? And then we basically recorded those songs, put them in that sequence, and maybe switched one of them around with another just to make it flow better. And as far as the others, we'll see. There's not exactly a graveyard, but there's kind of a warehouse like the one at the end of the Raiders of the Lost Ark that kind of has songs in it. So, there's a lot of stuff in there floating around.
You're releasing 1,000 of these CDs signed by the band. What's the philosophy behind that?
Because 1,000 left my hand like this, and any more would have been worse. So that was enough. They just wanted to make it special overall. There was some mumble of vinyl, but we'll see what happens with that. I don't know.
How does that really work? Everyone's on this vinyl bandwagon now. Cost versus actual selling. Has Raven found that it's profitable and worth the energy?
Yeah, it's actually been, especially for us selling them on the road. Yeah, it's been very profitable actually. But people want to have all the formats. They want the CD, which they'll play. They want the vinyl for just as a collection thing, really, and to see the art in, large. But there's people out there that have got good sound systems, and let's face it, vinyl is the way to go. It does, if it's mastered right for it, it sounds phenomenal. So why not? And it kicks into that whole thing with the experience of putting it on and not farting around changing tracks. You listen to it as it was meant to be heard from start to finish. So,
If you had a chance to collaborate with musicians in the metal arena or not, what would be your dream collaboration team?
oh, jeez. I'm happy to collaborate with anyone. It's always fun having someone that you've never worked with. They bring something different to the table. You hopefully bring something, and you create something, more than the sum of its parts. There was the one collaboration that would have been wonderful that never happened. There was this guy somewhere in Indiana, and he must have had deep pockets. He was putting a project together, and he wanted me on it, and he had Martin Barr from Jethro Tull
Mm-hmm.
and a few other guys, and he wanted to bring us all in
Yeah.
and spend like about a month. And it sounded wonderful, and then it all fell apart with the pandemic. But to meet with Martin would have been fantastic. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
What a killer player that guy is, you know.
No, of course.
You know, I've done a project. There's a thing called Helm's Deep. We did the first album. I just finished the tracks on the second one. The guy Alex, who it's his baby, is just has the craziest riffs. It's like Iron Maiden on crack being chased by a ferret. And you know, lots and lots of people. The list is too long.
Yeah. Wrapping up the new EP, are we touring? Is it just something to carry over to the new full length? What's the plans?
Yeah, it carries over to the new one. It points to where we're going. And, you know, like I say, we've got the album to do. Mark is going to be having an ankle operation at the end of March. We have a festival March 20th, Hell's Heroes in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big deal. It's a big European style festival, which is awesome. And once that's done, he's going to have them give him a bionic ankle. So he has to get over that, and then we'll be writing and recording through there. We've got dates booked for September in Europe. We're booking that, and hopefully the States either right before that or right after it. But that's all concurrent on. Let's see how the album thing's going. You know, we need to knuckle down and get that together.
Do you have a family? Do you have hobbies? Do you have a sports team? What does John Gallagher do outside of Raven?
Oh, not too much, to be honest. It's pretty all encompassing. If we're not touring, I'm either making guitars or fixing guitars or
Okay.
trying to come up with ways to make stuff that my brother can't break stuff, which is quite a challenge. Yeah, I got a son who's 33 at this point. A daughter who's like she's going to be 30 in next month. Yeah. When I'm not working, I'm with my girlfriend. She's out in England, back in my hometown.
Okay.
You know, she was over. We were actually hiking the Hollywood Hills like a couple of days before the fires broke out. But don't blame me. It wasn't my fault.
I'm not saying anything, but where there's smoke, there's fire. You know, you crazy Brits. I don't know what you're up to. We're going to take a quick break, but before we go, we're going to hear this little song that John composed for me on the spot before the interview started when I was dealing with some tech issues. And then when we come back, John's going to explain the reasoning why Raven and other old school metal bands aren't getting invited on some of these bigger, huge tours by some of these huge metal bands. We'll be right back.
John's trying to fix his SD card, trying to get it happening all the way. And when he's fixing his SD card, he'd better get it happening, or there'll be trouble today. Thank you.
Metal Mayhem ROC.
Why haven't more bands like yourself hooked up with some of these mega veteran bands like you had the chance to open for Metallica? How come those doors don't open?
It's not up to the bands. If it was up to the bands, it would happen. We've had the opportunity to open with Metallica on 2 separate occasions, and on one of them we asked them, and it made sense for them because it was hard to turn them down. If they've already sold out a 70,000 seat stadium, they could put Mickey Mouse on as an opening act. It wouldn't matter, right? So, when they've got Live Nation and all this lot booking a stadium tour, they at least feel that they need to have an act that's, ticks all the boxes as far as how many streams do they have on Spotify and what's their social media status and all this other nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's, I've literally heard that from the horse's mouth. Dave Mustaine was one of the guys that told me this, literally said if it was up to me, but it's not. Says we have to, go along with what we're told by the movers and shakers who put this stuff together. And like I say, the thing that happened with playing in Fort Lauderdale with Metallica, we met with James, and as a parting shot, I just said, "Hey, we're available. You ever need us?" And he just said, "Well, we're thinking of doing something. I'll let you know in a few weeks." Boom, and he did. So we're, obviously incredibly grateful for the opportunity to do that. It's wonderful, but it's a weird thing, and usually it's been the personal connection. I mean, we finally played with Saxon back in 2016 at a festival in Poland, and I buttonholed Biff and I goes, "You need to have us open up for you." "Yeah, well, we've got such, you need us, you need us." And you go, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And the next year, he tried, and it didn't make sense. And the following year, we worked it out, and it was phenomenal. It was so good.
What didn't make sense?
It didn't make sense because of the money involved. There was literally no money in it for us whatsoever. And we'd already had some stuff booked that we would have had to cancel to do this. And, it was a bit of a clash. But when we finally got it together in 2018, it was fantastic. We went over and did like 20, 30 dates before we started with them. And then we went with them for like another 25, 30 dates. And fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
John, it's been a tough week for the new wave of British heavy metal movement. The passing of John Sykes and Keith Stashfield.
Yeah, Keith was in a band called Warbeck way back in the day. Then he formed a band called Axe, and they changed their name to Fist.
Yep.
And they had a single out on Neat right before we did. They had Name, Rank, and Serial Number. And You'll Never Get Me Up in one of those, which was the B-side. And they were a great band. And they were older than us. They were a few years older. So, we certainly looked up to them, when we started, for sure. And Keith was just a great songwriter, had a very distinctive voice, quite a force of nature. And, they ended up signing a major deal and getting ground down and depressed and, burned out from it, which was a shame. And I know Keith had some health issues over the years, but he certainly made his mark. And he was Northeast royalty, for sure. A very sad loss. And as for John, John, made it all the way to the top. He wrote all the music on the Whitesnake 1987 album with Coverdale, so. And we knew him when he joined the Tigers.
Yep.
Actually, his first show with the Tigers was playing with us.
Really?
In a little hall in Wallsend. And he came up and said, "What do you think of the Tigers?" Well, like, "Oh, yeah, they're good." He says, I don't. He says, "I'm just here because where I was working on the roads in Blackpool." He says, "I'd do anything rather than work on the roads in the winter." He says, "So, let's see where this goes." And of course, within a year or two, he was playing with Lizzie and hanging out with Gary Moore and stealing the rest of his riffs.
Allegedly. So.
Which he admitted to, 100%. But he was a very larger-than-life character. And once he had a few drinks, he'd get into a lot of trouble.
What about your buddy, Nico McBrain, retiring from Maiden? Did you hear any of this beforehand? Do you keep in touch with Nico?
Yeah, there was lots of talk that he was kind of having to dumb down his parts when they were playing. He wasn't doing everything, and it was just like, yeah, God bless the guy. He's that age. He's had a stroke, and he's back out on the road. That's like nuts. And he was smart enough to say, I'm done. I can't play at the level that I once would play at. And that's the time where you take the bow, and he's deserves all the accolades. He's a wonderful drummer, an amazing character, funny guy, and he's earned the opportunity to put his feet up and just say, "Okay, boys, carry on. I'll watch from the sidelines."
The 40-year anniversary of Stay Hard. What's the one regret that you have about that era?
Stay hard, nothing. The only regret I have is that we signed with Atlantic, and they were as ridiculous as they were when it got to the next record. After time and reflection, I've come to believe that the majority of people that worked at that record company were only there for three purposes: to get drunk, to get laid, and to do drugs. And it had very little to do with the music business, to the point that they were more rock and roll party than the bands were.
You guys weren't that far into any of that scene, were you?
No.
No.
Not me personally, no. I mean, I don't even drink.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody would come up after the show, "Hey man, love the show. You want some Coke?" I'm like, "No, I've got 7-Up. I'm good. Thank you very much."
Yeah.
And walk away from that. But a lot of other people obviously ended up being casualties. So you've got that angle. You've got the record companies trying to change them and failing miserably. And then the band ends up with a drug problem and owing $50,000 to $100,000 because they didn't sell records. And, oh, well, I guess we got to break up. It's the only way they can escape that obligation. So that happened to a lot of people, And then luckily, one of the few things we had sorted out good financially was the ability to avoid a lot of that. So when things did get a little rough, it wasn't, Mark, John, and Rob being personally responsible, thank God.
What does celebrating 50 years with Raven mean to you with your brother?
It's humbling. It's amazing, and it's confounding because I can't believe it's that long.
Mm-hmm.
It was brought home to me when somebody showed me a list of bands and how long they'd been together, and we were in the top 10. And it's like, ZZ Top, Aerosmith, please, Rolling Stones, and Raven's in with that. It's just like, so that really hit it home a little more, So we have that dichotomy of we're old bastards. We're a legacy band. But we're not,
No,
because we're making new music and we're pushing forward, and it's all, regarding the future. So unlike a lot of bands of our age, we're not, celebrating and looking back all the time. It's looking forward.
Sure.
But we've got that history and legacy to celebrate as well. So that's a kind of a cool thing,
Can't be rosy all the time. Any challenges with him?
Not really. He's, we're different people. I'm more studied and methodical, and he's more lightning in a bottle. I'll come up with something and work on it and work on it and work on it, and he'll just famously float up and play a song from start to finish off the top of his head. I mean, I remember sitting there gobsmacked, as they say, like, as he played Die for Allah from start to finish, completely improvised the entire song. And there was another song called Insane off the Everything Louder album. He did the same thing, just played the whole song all the way through. And it's just like, where did that come from? Because I don't know, but I'm pleased you recorded it.
Yeah. Well, that's that unwritten chemistry.
And when we bounce ideas off each other, it's, anything can happen. It's great,
Well, that's awesome. The new one, Can't Take the Fire Away EP, only 1,000 of them printed, signed by the band. John Kadeteska's His Hand Still Hurts comes out the 14th everywhere, Silver Lining Music. John, what's the best way to stay in touch with Raven?
You can hit us up on Official Raven on Facebook and Instagram. You can chase me, John Gallagher Raven, on Facebook. Ravenlunatics.com is the website. And don't come knocking at my door. I'll hit you with a guitar.
All right, I'll stay away. All right, man. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks for adjusting your schedule and getting us in.
Not a problem. All the best to everyone. We'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon, bud. Thanks.
Cheers, man.
Bye.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.